our clients that are in the plan pay me a small monthly fee. They have on-demand access to talk and ask questions. They get their contracts reviewed. They never sign anything again that hadn't been reviewed. They get custom agreements for their fitness business or their online business. So they have all the right documentation to cover the bases legally without breaking the bank. And we've been doing this now for over 8 years. It's a lot of fun because now I'm helping people grow their businesses in a way that's protected instead of always pulling their fat out of the fire.
Hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today we're going to the great state of Texas, the Republic of Texas, to talk to Scott Reib. He is known as America's legal coach. He's the official Zig Ziglar small business lawyer, a Ziglar Legacy certified trainer, and he has over 20 years of experience as an attorney. For the last 2 decades, Scott has been helping business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and service providers to shatter-proof their businesses and succeed in the professional world. Scott is a firm believer that seeking legal advice doesn't have to be intimidating or expensive. I like that part. If we treat lawyers like primary care doctors instead of ER docs. Through his subscription-based access plan legal service, Scott is making great strides in shifting that perspective. So hopefully I got all of that right, Scott, and welcome to the show, because I know when I talked to you initially, I was very enlightened. So I'm hoping we can pass that on to the listeners.
No, that's great, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Okay. So tell me why, I know, like you said, that going to lawyers can be really intimidating and expensive because the fitness industry and lawyers don't have the best relationship because we don't necessarily see the need for legal services or have the pockets for legal services. And attorneys are always like, oh, you better get a waiver and get your butt covered for that. Right. So what made you jump into that arena to try to close that gap?
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely an opportunity with fitness people, but a lot of small businesses in general have this problem of limited capital, limited cash flow, and they see lawyers as being expensive because traditionally that's been true. And so what do? They wait till their house or business is on fire before they go get help. And so I had clients that would use me for big projects, litigation. We'd fix the problem. It'd be really expensive. They'd be unhappy at the end because it cost so much, and then they wouldn't come back until it was bad again. And so we started asking questions, and it really came down to, well, Scott, we just can't afford to pay you $500 an hour to answer our questions. So we don't call because we're afraid it's going to cost too much. So I hired my first business coach in 2012 and told them what I wanted to create was a subscription model where small business owners, coaches could have on-demand access to lawyers like Fortune 500 companies do, so that they can not make big mistakes. You're still going to make some small ones, but let's not make big ones. And by having that access, having what I call the right information at the right time, you can usually do that. So we created the Access Coaching Plan. And so now our clients that are in the plan pay me a small monthly fee. They have on-demand access to talk and ask questions. They get their contracts reviewed. They never sign anything again that hadn't been reviewed. They get custom agreements for their fitness business or their online business. So they have all the right documentation to cover the bases legally without breaking the bank. And we've been doing this now for over 8 years. It's a lot of fun because now I'm helping people grow their businesses in a way that's protected instead of always pulling their fat out of the fire. And they like me more because I'm now on their team. They don't see me as a cost. I'm now an investment because we're helping them grow and protect that business. And that's why we did it.
Yeah, I like that quite a bit because like you said, usually they only, and I'm speaking from personal experience, you only see lawyers. It's like morticians, right? There's never a happy occasion where you got to go see an attorney. You know, it's always doom and gloom. So it's a little bit different when you can act proactively. So you mentioned like small businesses, they don't have the capital for legal service like some of the bigger companies. So they typically make big mistakes. What are some of the common big mistakes you see small businesses make because of that perception?
One of them is really not setting their business upright. It's what I call the foundation of the business. You need to have the right corporate structure, and that could be an Inc., a corporation. It probably is probably a limited liability company or LLC, and it may be multiple companies if you're doing multiple things because you want to separate the liability. So if you're, for instance, if you own a gym, and then you're also doing coaching, well, that's two different things. And so you'd want to keep your gym business in one silo and your coaching business in another silo so the two don't mix and the liabilities don't cross over. And by having them each in their own silo, they also can't come home and take your personal assets. And most people don't do that. They tend to just go get a DBA, open a bank account, and think they're in business, which is true. They are, and they can make money, but everything they have is exposed to it. And even if they go get an LLC, they don't usually do it right. And there's not been any thought to it. Is this the right structure? Do I need to do more? How do I have it taxed? And there's just things like that that they don't think about when they're doing the foundation. And it's understandable. They're not, fitness people aren't trained on how to set up businesses. They're trained on how to help people get in shape and stay in shape. And so, you have a blind spot because you just don't know what you don't know. And by being shut out because of the money, what else can you do but use cheap online sources, ask a friend, and just do the best you can? And so we've bridged that gap. For instance, we had an Access client a couple of weeks ago who's in the fitness business. Have a client want to hire her to go on a 2-week cruise on a yacht to the Bahamas, and they wanted her to train their guests on the boat. And she's like, I'd love to do that. And they're going to pay her. I mean, it was a lot of money. But she wanted to make sure she was protected. So we were able to create a custom package for her just for that event, in 48 hours. You can't get that if you don't already have a lawyer on your team. And so she was super excited, and now she's actually out there right now doing that session. And I mean, literally, she'll make as much as she made the last month in that one gig, and she was able to get it documented correctly because she had access. Without it, she would have probably just had to take what she used every day with her training clients and try to make it work, but it wasn't quite right. Don't do that. Get access to a lawyer that will charge you the reasonable rates or give you some kind of a monthly plan, and then you keep your business safe, your personal assets safe, go home and sleep well at night, and that's what we do every day.
Yeah, I like that, because then you have a legally binding contract or agreement versus just a handshake deal.
Yeah, and so that's like the second problem is that a lot of people are just doing handshake deals, especially in the fitness business. I've used a lot of personal trainers over the last 10 years, especially, and a lot of them, you have an agreement maybe with the gym where you're working out, but you don't sign anything to sign up for the personal training. Well, that's a big mistake. There should be an agreement in place so that you can, what are the scheduling rules? Can you cancel within 24 hours at no cost, or is there a cost if you cancel? What are the goals? What are the results? What's guaranteed? What's not? All those things. And if you just show up and do the training, it might all go fine. But it's the one time that it doesn't, and then you're bankrupt and no longer able to do business because you didn't document it right. That's where you really pay for it, and that's expensive. Having someone like me on a monthly plan. I mean, our plans start as low as $499 a month. For less than $6,000 a year, you're making sure that everything you do is protected. And I know there are some other lawyers trying to do similar things across the country. And so if you don't want to use me, then find somebody, but you need that coverage for those two issues, especially forming your business and then documenting your deals.
I agree. I mean, because if you sign like a 6-month agreement with a client and they walk out a month into it, well, I mean, and if you don't have a legally binding contract, you don't have a leg to stand on. Right. Versus, if they sign that legally binding contract and agreement, then you have some leverage to make sure that, you hold their feet to the fire when it comes to the contract, which is really important. And what you said, plans starting at $499 a month. I know $499 is about an hour and a half worth of my attorney's time. billing hours. So that's really probably closer to 45 minutes. but
Yeah.
but like you said, like I like that approach because I know you talked about um, treating your financial people. I mean, I'm sorry, not your financial, your legal people, like your attorney, like a primary care physician and not an ER doc. And I been on here preaching about the same thing with the CPAs because it's the same syndrome.
Yeah.
It's like people don't see their CPAs until it's time to file their taxes. They take, this ragtag, bunch of files to their CPA, and then the CPA, tells them you owe all of this to the federal government in taxes. And you're like, oh man, this guy sucks. This is horrible. This is a terrible experience. Versus the guy that I use is a part-time CFO, where he advises me throughout the year how to position myself so that I know what I'm probably looking at when I file at the end of the year. So I don't get hit with any, check left hooks or anything like that, and then wake up wondering, man, why am I writing this big ass check to the IRS? So I think, from an attorney standpoint, I think it's kind of the same. What you're offering is kind of the same service. So let's launch into that. Why should people, what are some of the benefits of treating your attorney like a primary care physician instead of a ER doc?
Yeah, and we have a concept called shatterproofing your business, and so the idea is that we drive around in cars with this glass in them that's shatterproof, right? That glass came from originally used in gas masks in World War One. They were having trouble with mustard gas coming through because the glass was cracking, so they used this shatterproof glass, and now the soldiers aren't dying. Well, if we put them in our car windows, now things hit our car windows, and most of us have at one time or another had a rock hit it, something hit it, and there's a mark on your windshield. Maybe even a bit crack, or it may grow over time, but it doesn't come straight through and hit you in the face. And that's what shatterproof glass does. The object doesn't come through, and the glass doesn't fall in on you, and so it protects you. And so we want our customers, clients to be proactive with their business vehicle, and let's try to find a way to build it with legal structures and systems that keep us legally healthy, right? So like I see my nurse practitioner on a regular basis. We do blood work at least once a quarter. We're adjusting my supplements. We're monitoring all that stuff so that I can have a good life, right? So I can feel good, enjoy life, and have a longer life. Well, if we're saying that you need to apply those same types of things to your legal world, and you're right, to the financial world, to make sure that you don't have big problems. I'm going to have some health problems over my lifetime. It's just, there will be some. But if I take care of myself with good nutrition and I'm paying attention to that because I have a doctor monitoring it, I'm working out on a regular basis to keep my joints and muscles going, and my cardiovascular system, I have a much better chance of overcoming those little things. It's exactly the same way with law. Most of the big problems that are expensive, these $80,000 lawsuits, are over $2,000 questions. Someone didn't want to pay $2,000 to make sure the contract was right on a business purchase, and they end up in a lawsuit. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. Where before I had the access plan, I would have had to charge a client several $1,000s for the project. Now, if they're an access member, it's just included. We make sure it's reviewed. You don't sign anything that doesn't make sense, and you don't make these big mistakes. And so that's what I mean by use your lawyer as a primary care instead of emergency room. Yeah, you can still bring emergencies into us and we'll solve your problem. That's one of our core values, is we solve problems. But we'd rather the problem be small, and we'd rather you not have the problem. I send many people away that want to file lawsuits telling them don't do it. Courtrooms and trials are only good for lawyers. They're not good for businesses and individuals. They will suck your life up and they'll suck all your money up. I say the US legal system is the best in the world, but it's like a roach motel. Once you get in, it's hard to get out. So get a good lawyer that will help you stay out of that. I could make a lot of money litigating and did it for a lot of years, but that's not what's good for the client. What's good for the client is to build good, strong systems and structures and run our businesses in a way that we avoid that as much as possible. And so that's what we do. It changed my world when I started doing it 8 years ago. And we've been able to change hundreds of small business owners' lives.
So how can, so let's say I hire you and and I want to, we get all the foundational stuff, we put out all the fires, everything's looking good. Now I'm looking toward the future. So how do you help me from a legal standpoint? What are some of the typical things that you do for clients who are looking to grow their business, to be proactive legally?
Yeah, like I just finished a call right before our podcast with a client that's in the coaching business. He's doing business coaching, and he's launching a really cool product, and he wants to have some people doing marketing it for him to get people to these events. And how does he pay them? And so we walked through how we would track it, how we would pay them, and then what are some of the things we're going to need to put in their agreement that they're going to sign. And so we're able to carve carve all that out, draw it up, and then my team will put those documents together for them over the next week, and it's done. Um, and so we're able to brainstorm those things on the fly without the clock, running in his head, thinking, "Oh, I got to speed up. I can't spend this time talking to Scott. It's cost too much money." And he can just brainstorm with me. Another instance would be we're the Ziegler lawyers for Zig Ziglar's company. His son Tom launched a book a little over a year ago, and he was trying to figure out, if you're going to launch a book in that business, there's always some kind of a program behind it. How to do it in a way that would help the most people and be a profitable model. And so I was able to walk him through in about a 30-minute call a whole different model that they'd ever thought of, and now they're making they're helping lots and lots of people and making more money than they were making on other models. But we were able to document that and do it together because I'm able to see the proverbial forest for the trees. When you're in the middle of this stuff, you can't. But I'm able to come take a look from a different perspective and give you some business strategy with legal structure that most people can't do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, I like that. And the other aspect that I think applies here is that, and I know this from experience because I just launched Fit University, kind of an online business, released a book simultaneously about guests on the podcast. So that's a lot. It was a lot on my plate. So I had to hire, for the first time in my life, a virtual assistant, and it was like one of those things. Why didn't I do that sooner? You
yeah,
know, and then same thing. I reached out to you. I told you that I reached out to my attorney to get contracts to, solicit content, and he's like, "Yeah, that'd be, 350 an hour." And I'm like, "Man, this contract's going to cost me a lot of money." And then I talked to you, so I talked to, about, hiring you for those contracts for content, things like that. But my original point before I went off on that tangent was, when you're starting a business or running a business, you have a lot on your plate, and there's a lot of things that I don't want to do. I'm a fitness guy, and in a lot of ways, I'm a stereotypical fitness guy. I'm a what I call a rehabilitated meathead, and so I don't like accounting. So that's why I give it to Ivan, my part-time CFO. Legal stuff scares the shit out of me, to be honest with you. Because I just don't understand it, and I don't care to. I don't care to go to law school. So then that's when I hire that out, or hire somebody for my legal team to take it off my plate, and then we can come together as a team and decide on what's going forward. So when you can handle that, you take that off their plate and kind of unmuddy the waters for them, so to speak. Would you agree?
yeah, our mission is to take care of those things so you can get back to what really matters, which is your life, your family, your business, not legal stuff. I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I don't do my own. I don't pull my own teeth. I don't do my own surgery. I pay other people to do that, so I don't have to worry about it and use the experts. And you're able to then leverage your time. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't do that, then I mean, unless you're some kind of superhuman, you only have 24 hours in each day.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more leverage you can use, the more you can get out of those hours, and hopefully work less and spend more time doing things with your family and friends that will last a lot longer than these businesses. So yeah, it's super important. The first strategy in my book, the 5 proven strategies to try to proof your business, is assemble a team of key advisors. We've already named 2 of them: the attorney, the CPA. You also need to have a business coach. You need a banker, not a bank. You need a banker that you have their cell phone number, and you can text them and say, hey, I just wrote a check and I can't make the deposit till tomorrow. Can you cover it? Right. Like that never happens. And yeah, you need that. And then you
Mhm.
also need an insurance guy that can say, or girl that says, here's the coverage you need. You may not be able to afford it all right now, but here's what you need to cover your business, and that they know you and your business. And then you start choosing as the money comes in to make sure you've got that coverage. If you have those people on your team, you have this like board of advisors, then you can leverage them um, to create more time, to create be more productive, and then to be protected. And then you're making lots better decisions, and you should be able to move your business forward, in a much faster pace than you can trying to figure it all out. And one example is, I market just like you guys do, and I don't write copy very well. I write lawyer stuff, and when I write copy for sales, it just doesn't. It's just not good. And so I had someone wanting to sell me a program to learn how to write copy, and I'm like, no, I don't want to learn how to write copy. I just want the copy. I want to be able to do something else and then get an email. Here's your copy for this landing page, and go, that's great. Let's go with it. I don't want to have to do it myself. It's the same with legal. If you're a fitness person, you shouldn't want to figure out the legal. Do you want to understand what's going on? Yes, and it should be explained to you in non-legal jargon. But you don't want to go to law school. You don't want to have to read a bunch of legal documents. Just get the good advice, move on, make a decision, move on.
Okay. So the first step in shatterproofing your business is hire that board or find that board of advisors, assemble your
Right.
team. Yeah, I like that. So what's the next step or number two?
Next step is, we've already discussed it. It's create the solid foundation for your business, which is the right corporate structure. And what we do for our clients is we usually do a diagram of, let's just dream. What all do you want to do? What's your vision for your life? And you may have several different things. And we create, this is how the entities would look. This is how they all work together. And some of these are future, right? It's okay. We have them on paper. Once you have them on paper and your brain sees them, it starts working on that stuff. So we have a plan for how you can grow your business, and that's that structure that you need to have. And then we just start taking it down as you need it. We form the LLCs. Our access clients don't pay for LLCs. That's part of their deal. You just pay your state filing fee, whatever it is. It varies a lot.
Mhm.
And then that's the second one. And the third is document everything, right? So have a contract for everything. If you have an LLC, make sure you have an operating agreement, that you've got minutes, that you have documents for those. If you're selling, then you have sales proposals that are written and you keep copies. And when they're signing contracts, they're written and you have copies. Document everything you do. And a writing could be an email back and forth. You can definitely create a contract electronically, but you still have to document the deal. Don't do the handshakes anymore. Doesn't work. That would be number three. And number four is don't use other people's stuff. We're talking about intellectual property. So when you see a really cool image on the internet, don't take it and use it on your website or your landing page without permission, because someone has a copyright in that and they will sue you. And it costs money and there's no defense really. It's so don't do it. Make sure that, and then make sure that the brand of your building, like your brand's Masters in Fitness, then make sure that no one else is using that somewhere, because if they are, they would hold trademark rights to that, and you might be building a brand, your business on their brand, and there's lots of problems with that. So make sure you own your territory, and the way you do that is you register the trademark for your brand with the United States Trademark Office. Not a big deal, but you do that about the same time you form your company, and then I'm building this company on my platform, and no one else has any rights to it. Right? That's
Yeah.
really important because people steal it. And so that's
Hmm.
the fifth strategy is protect your intellectual property. That's your branding. If you're doing a podcast and you're making sure that you're registering copyrights and stuff. If you do books, there's copyrights on those. And if you have some really cool methodology that might be patent worthy, then you're getting the patent to protect that. And then if someone else is using your stuff intentionally, like you've got some really cool workouts that you've created that you think are unique, then and you want other fitness pros to use them, fine, license them to them, do a license agreement. Even if they're not paying you very much money for them, document that it's yours. And those are the five strategies, and those go a long way to shatterproofing a fitness business.
Yeah, all five great steps. And I want to backtrack a little bit to actually number two, where you said create that solid foundation and setting up the structure. Because I know one thing that Ivan pointed out to me when I first hired him is that my gym was under an LLC. And he said, well, from a tax liability standpoint, you're getting a lot of unnecessary exposure because it's a pass through. What you need after a certain income level is an S corp, because then it has tax benefits. You don't have to pay as many taxes. So something like that saves me potentially tens of thousands of dollars, correct?
10 to 15% a year. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
huge. And there's kind of some misconceptions there. An S corp isn't a type of entity. An S corp is a tax election. So an LLC, this is why it's such a great business entity, is it comes out as what we call a check the box entity. So it can be a disregarded entity like yours was. So when you start out and the money just goes right straight to your 1040. And then when you start making some money, has some regular cash flow, now let's make that sub S election. You file a 2553 with the IRS and say, I want to be a sub S now. And then you pay yourself a reasonable paycheck. You try to make it as small as you can, but still meet the IRS standards. And then that's got payroll tax out of it. And then you distribute profit. You don't have to take the payroll tax out. And that's where those savings come in. There's some, and a different setting, I can show you the numbers, but it's huge. And if you're a fitness pro and haven't looked at that S corporation, it's literally costing you tens of thousands of dollars every year
In taxes
That's
that you're paying to Uncle Sam. Yeah, painfully so.
That you could be reinvesting in your business.
Absolutely. Or taking your family on vacation.
You bet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then document everything. I like that. And I like that my general manager is a stickler on that. She's my, for lack of a better term, work wife. Now I know HR may have a problem with that term, but she just keeps me accountable, right? Which I need. We all do, but she's a big one on contract for everything. Like we just came up with this punch card membership. She's asked me again today, did you get that contract for the punch card membership? Because we have a contract for the other memberships. What do you say about somebody who is looking for a client contract or a membership contract, and they just kind of do a search on the internet and copy and paste? What happens? What are some of the issues with that?
I think most people would probably want to say, well, that's better than nothing. The truth is, it might be worse than nothing. Because if you don't understand what's in it, you could be committing to something you don't really want to, or it could have holes in it that you're not aware of, and you're going into this thinking, I've got a contract and I'm covered. So you really need to use a professional that knows what should be in the contract, that understands your deal to document it. It's not rocket science, but there are things that people in my business know that people in your business don't yet, because you just haven't done it. And so get someone to create some templates for you. And then if you want to change them a little bit, then you make the tweaks to them, send them back to your lawyer and say, hey, does this work, before you use it? But and you could do that. Like you could download a template and say, I kind of like this. I like most of this. You could then send that to your lawyer. And if you sent that to us, then we would add to it whatever we thought needed to, or change something and send it back to you so that it was usable. And that can be a fast way to start. But to just use it right off the internet, um, I wouldn't advise that. I download things occasionally where there's something special that I haven't done before, because it's, like I said, it's a good start. And I might combine 2 or 3 different contracts that I've downloaded to create the one that I want my client to use.
Yeah. And the same holds true for the waiver, especially post-COVID.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And then don't use other people's stuff. I like that. You would think that would be common sense, but it really isn't.
It's not. And every year, one of my clients gets the cease and desist letter and send me $5,000 from somebody. And it's usually the picture. Someone's grabbed a picture and put it on their website and thought it was royalty free, and it wasn't. Um, it's just so easy. You go to Google Images, and there are all these pretty images, and they're easy to grab. And so suddenly you use something that you shouldn't. So don't do that. Make it your policy and procedure for whoever's doing that stuff for you, that they have to go to certain sites that you know are royalty free, or go to something where you buy them for not very much money,
Hmm.
but you can get some really quality images and know that you're not going to get that demand letter. Because
Yeah.
photographers, my son is a wedding photographer, and I mean he takes great pride in his work,
Hmm.
and he to see that being used somewhere else and acting like it's they have rights to it would be harmful to him and his business. So I
Hmm.
get it even more than I used to. That's an art form, and they've created that. So don't use it. Yeah, you said it should be common sense. We learned that in kindergarten, right? Don't use other
Hmm.
people's stuff, but
Hmm.
somehow we still keep doing it, and the internet just makes it so easy.
Yeah, it's like the music industry, right? It's like why you can't use somebody else's song on your videos when you
Hmm.
post something.
Yep.
Same reason. And I learned that firsthand from starting the podcast and Fit University. When I'm looking for images, you got to pay. You got to go and you got to pay. Or you're going to pay. You'll just pay a lot less up front
Which
for
would be
both the
hard.
music and the images. So yeah, and then
Right.
protect your intellectual property. I like that. So quick question. I just had a friend of mine, Micah Logan, on the show, and he took his concept to, he had two studios in Boston, and he just took it to franchise, which was a big process, right?
It is.
But when he took it to franchise, he had to change the name because now he was operating on a national level, right?
Yep.
And so there were legal ramifications to using the name he was using in the state of Massachusetts. So can you explain that to the listeners, the difference between like operating locally, like within your state, versus operating nationally? Like, can you explain that? And then I have a follow-up question.
Yeah. For instance, if you, yeah, so I'm in Dallas, Texas area. If I started a
Mhm.
business here, and created a really creative name for it and ran it for 5, 10 years, didn't realize there was another one in New York City. Um, we have a conflict because we're both using the same brand or trademark. We have some what's called common law rights to it because the statutes give that to you. But if neither of us have registered it, then we have a fight. If one of us has registered the trademark, then we would have priority over the rest of the country, except for that one carved out space, maybe where they are. So if I did it, they might get New York City. So that's why it's so important right up front when you have this great idea to spend a little of your money, invest in protecting that trademark, because you don't know where it's going to go in the future. It's hard to see 10 years in the future, but you might want to franchise it. You might want to grow it beyond your town. So get a name that you can use. And it takes some work because you have to be creative. And it's really hard to find something new now. There's just, I mean, Solomon said it thousands of years ago. There's nothing new under the sun. So it can be really tough to find that creative name. So once you think you have it, then get with your lawyer and have them do some searches to make sure that you have the rights, that you could register. And then once you do it, then register them and protect them. Because if you do that and you go to franchise and you found that there's someone else using it, you can stop them. You can get an injunction stopping them from using your name and get money from them for profits they've made off your brand. If you haven't registered it, you're real limited on what you can do. You may be able to stop them, but you can't take that money back. And you have to pay your attorney's fees. If you have it registered, they'll have to pay your fees back at the end of the case. So there's real value to registering those trademarks. Same with copyright and patent. But that brand, and I had a client, they came on about 5 years ago, and they were a 20-year business when they came on. And this guy had owned it 10 years, and he bought it from someone else that I knew. And they had never trademarked the brand, and they're now in 8 states. They didn't franchise; it's all corporate. And so it's like we need to trademark this, and we go to trademark it, and we found several marks that were really close. We were able to get it through the examiner; they approved the trademark. But it was one of those, on pins and needles that because are we infringing on other people's marks, and hadn't known it. And so we were able to get it through. Had we not, they would have had to totally rebrand this 20-year-old business. That would have, just the paper cost would have been huge,
Hmm.
but just the loss of, I don't know how you'd measure the loss of momentum. So yeah, it's really important to get that brand down, do a branding consultation with somebody, get it all figured out, your name, your colors, your logo, and then get all that protected. And then you have that platform to launch. If you don't do it right, you could have, like you said, your buddy had to redo stuff, and you can, but it'd been much better if you could have franchised it with the brand that already had the credibility
Yeah.
that he built up.
Yep. So one other question, I know if you're just running a brick and mortar in Boston, you mainly have to deal with the state of Massachusetts. But if now that, especially with COVID, the growth of online training, coaching services in the fitness industry has really grown, like every other industry, and it's not going to go away. So if you have an internet-based company, do you have to just deal with the legal statutes in the state where it's located, or do you have to go federal?
There's going to be some federal things that apply. Generally speaking, you want to have a home base and make it clear where your home base is, and then that's why you use written agreements. And so you're going to have terms and conditions on your website that people have to accept to use your website, and those terms need to say that this is for me, a Texas-based online business. All lawsuits would be in Texas and governed by Texas law, and you can do that in your state, but you have to have it in writing. If you don't, then it's going to be up in the air as to where a problem would be solved. And that's one of the things you want to have in every agreement. Is what we call a venue clause, is where it will be solved. The other thing is you want to have a dispute clause that says how we resolve problems. And usually you want to make that, you want to have this require mediation, so we have a chance to work it out. Maybe then go to arbitration instead of actually a court action. And so you have to, again, you got to document it. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. And I learned that years ago doing litigation, where people would say, "Oh, this happened," and if it's not in the documents, it didn't happen. So when you get in the courtroom, it doesn't matter what someone's going to say; it's what did the documents show.
Gotcha. And that's good to know, because I certainly didn't know that. And then also, when you say trademark, do you mean like to get like the registered trademark, or with just registering it with the state enough, or do you have to go to the federal trademark agency?
Yeah. So if you create a brand and a name, like your let's just say Masters in Fitness Business Podcast is a brand. You should use the TM next to that everywhere you use it to show the world that you consider that to be your trademark. And that's a common law trademark. And then you should take the next step and you register that with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And then when they approve it, then you get to change the TM to the circle R or the circle S. R is for trademark, and the S is for a service mark. And then everyone's on notice that you own the rights to that and they can't use it. And if they do, you can stop them and make them pay. But again, so you have what we call common law rights to trademark if you create it. And so let people know by putting that TM on it, and then take that next step and register it. It's $1,000 to register a trademark. It's not. I'm not saying that's nothing, but as far as an investment in a business that's going to be how you make your living, it's well worth it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that, like, glaring mistakes that you see small businesses make, specifically fitness related, that we should cover?
That you hit several times on that waiver. I know that I've personally trained several places and not had to sign a waiver. So make sure that you've got those. And then if you're a gym owner, that you usually cover that in your contract. If you're a personal trainer and you're not an employee of the gym, because a lot of them are independent contractors, they should have their own waivers that cover them and not just the gym. So if you're a personal fitness guy and you're a gal and you're doing contract work at a gym, then make sure you've got your own documentation where they're waiving for injuries that can happen and do happen regularly at no fault of the trainer. Right. So make sure you've got that, and you can do it digitally. You can there's several apps you can use on your phone or iPad. You don't have to carry paper around with you. Try to make it easy, but get those documents in place, because when someone gets hurt, you'll need that to support your case that you don't have liability, and you don't want to have to rely on the gym for doing that if you're an independent contractor. If you're an employee, no problem. But if you're an independent contractor, that's a separate business. You should have your own LLC, not be doing it on your social security number, and you have your own paperwork. It's a little redundant, but that redundancy could really protect you. And that's, I think, a big hole I see for people that are doing, especially, person to person training. That's a big
Yeah.
problem that I've seen because my trainers haven't asked me to sign them.
Yeah. So most of the independent contractors are running into that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're just,
All right.
they're just getting introduced to someone at the front of the gym and saying, hey, this person needs a personal trainer, and then they do it.
Right.
Right? The handshake, take the measurements, get started.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. Yep. Yeah. I've been in the industry a long time. I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay. All right. Well, Scott, this has been awesome. I would love to reserve the right to have you back on because,
Let's do it.
legal issues never stop. Whether things are going bad or things are going good, you're going to have to still, consult your attorney for sure. So, but now we get to my favorite part of the show because we get to peek behind the curtain that is Scott Reib. And so these are 3 questions I ask every guest that come on the show, and they're not gotcha questions, but they do give some great content. So my first one is, what has been your most successful failure? And by that, I mean, at the time you thought it was going to be a devastating loss you might not be able to recover from, but you were able to take life lessons from that propelled you to greater success down the road.
Yeah. In 2014, my law firm, we were in year 6. I had three lawyers working for my firm, 4 full-time staff people, and some part-time people. I was on my way to my first $1 million year. We're having a great year. The access plan had just started. I thought things were wonderful. Had to let one person go because they weren't performing. About a week later, I had to leave for vacation. When I was gone for a week to California, I get an email while I'm standing at Universal Studios on the last day of May of 2014 from the lawyer that was left, saying he was leaving the firm immediately, and attached is the paralegal's resignation. And here's the list of all the clients I'm taking with me. Have a nice life. So I had to decide then, am I going to finish my vacation with my family, and I had 2 little boys, or am I going to stop and go back? I decided to stay. I set up my first remote virtual receptionist. I did that from California, got them answering the phones, had a friend go change my locks. And I came back on the 1st of June and walked into my 2,000 plus square foot office, hoping to see my receptionist, but she got scared when she showed up on Friday and no one else was there. She was 18 and she left. So it was just me. And then I've got files flying out the door, and I had to figure out how to rebuild my business from nothing. In the law business, you can't use non-competes. Clients can go wherever they want to go. And so I wasn't able to stop that. And so I had to learn some very quick lessons on how to get efficient. I walked in, I didn't know how to run a credit card. I had not delegated. I had just let it go. I was out doing what I thought was fun, and I wasn't paying attention to anything else. And so I learned then and there that I needed to have access to all the passwords. I needed to know how things worked, so that I could do it myself if I needed to, and so that I could then train new people. So I had to then rebuild the firm, and I built it differently. And I could not have done any of it had I not had this subscription model in place, because the great thing about when you lose all of your employees is your costs go way down. And I had recurring revenue that was going to continue. So it ended up, some of it being a blessing in disguise, because of that. But if I had not set up the subscription model, I would have been bankrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so so I know you made a lot of changes. Did you make any changes to, like, obviously you did, to prevent that from happening again, a reoccurrence?
There's some,
because that happens all the time in the
fitness
fitness industry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, it does. Yeah. There's very little you can do other than try to make sure that I'm in charge of the relationships with the clients. And so I make sure that I'm spending time with all the clients. And instead of having, so I would used to delegate client time to people. Now I'm delegating work to people and I'm spending most of the time with the clients. And then I'll be very careful because at some point as we scale this, people are going to have to be part of the relationship. And they're just going to be people that I really trust. And then there's just going to be that risk there because of the business I'm in that if the client likes them more than me and wanted to go with them, they could. And so
Yeah.
there's just a built-in risk there. But everything is set up very different from the way it was then. I run much leaner team, and I have my eye on almost everything now. Where I didn't before. I was on business acquisition and client relationship, and that was it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So those are where we learn some of our most important, skills in situations like that. All right. And then my next question is, in your time in actually, let's go to the legal field. In your time in the legal field, what is the biggest surprise in, dealing with clients that you've had to deal with that you can share, dealing with clients that you did not see coming?
Biggest surprise.
Just in general, kind of overall, kind of broad stroke, like I didn't know that this would happen or people would say this or do this.
Oh, that's a really tough question. Um, I I didn't realize that people didn't pay their lawyers. I had no clue that people thought it was okay to use a lawyer's services and then not pay the bills, and then want the lawyer to keep doing work. It was a big surprise to me that happened in this industry. I kind of thought coming in, when you become a lawyer, you think you're special. You find out pretty soon that you're not. Other than you've got a law degree, you're just like everybody else, and this is a business. And people don't respect the legal bill any more than they do the fitness bill, and people wouldn't pay. And so another reason to switch models, because you could run up really big accounts receivables, and it's like I've done all this work, so you don't if you're using the billable hours system and they don't pay you, that's worthless. And I just had no clue when I started out as a lawyer that there was like a chance that someone would I would do the work and they wouldn't pay. It was shocking.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that's, I thought never even occurred to me because, like, if you don't pay your lawyer, then it costs them nothing to sue you.
Yeah, you would think.
I mean, not nothing, but a lot less than like if I had to sue somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, one of the big rules and ethics for lawyers is that you generally shouldn't sue your clients because
Oh,
bad things happen from that. And so I don't know if the clients are just smart enough to know that hey, you're not going to sue me anyway. But generally speaking, you just don't. Lawyers end up letting it go, and so
wow.
it's a mess. And I've had to write off. I've had you. Yes, I don't want to talk about it. It made me cry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Way too
shocking
much,
to me.
way too much money. But now I don't have any accounts receivable
Right.
because my model changed. I
Uh
am
huh.
either on a subscription or they pay me a flat fee for a project up front.
Uh huh.
So no receivables. So I don't have to
Yeah.
worry about the money not coming in. I
Uh
don't
huh.
have to chase you for the money.
Uh huh.
But when I was chasing it, I was very shocked.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Learn something new every day. And then my
Yeah.
last question is, where do you go for your personal and professional development?
Well, I'm a Ziegler Legacy certified trainer, and so
Mhm.
I go to Ziegler events annually. We're going to actually have our first live event in May, where I can get back with all the other ZLC people and sharpen my saw, because I need to be learning leadership skills, personal development skills for me, so that I can then lead my team here, and then
Mhm.
also pour that into all my access members, so that they can grow their businesses to have profits that will last.
Yeah, absolutely. I forget who said it, but they said you should be the biggest investment in your business for sure.
Yeah, and if you're gonna, I mean, yeah, if you're gonna be a business coach, you better have a coach, and you should be investing in yourself. And if you're a trainer, you got to have someone that's training you.
Hmm.
One thing, it helps you justify your fees. Why should I pay you? Well, because I'm paying someone else. We're always learning, and I need someone to hold me accountable and help me reach my goals. And
Hmm.
so you just need to make that investment. And like I said, one of the key relationships is that coach. I'm a firm believer that you have to have someone else that's pushing you forward and helping you reach those goals. It's not you don't want to reach them. It's just things come up in life that kind of get in your way, or you get sidetracked or drift. You have someone else that can help you. It gets you to that goal a lot faster and with a lot less frustration.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I think to a person, every person that's come on the podcast has said the same thing. Nobody makes it to the top alone. You need help. So, Scott, this has been great. I appreciate you taking your time. So, where can people go to contact you, get more information, all of that good stuff?
We'll have a special page. Reblaw.com is our website, and it'll be /masters in fitness. Will be a page there for your listeners. They can get a 20-minute session with me free of charge, and they can download the book we've been talking about, 5 Proven Strategies, right from that page. It'll be up when this goes live.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. And those links will be in the show notes. Go to trainerjim.net, click on this episode of the podcast, and the links to contact Scott will be right there. So, Scott, thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. And I will be in touch.
Good.
For sure.
It was great meeting you, and really loved the show. And this was a blast.
Yeah, same here. All right, man. Well, have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.